All right. The first item on our agenda is the Summit Ridge Townhome Development. I just want to confirm that we have the appropriate representatives that can both see the screen and hear us as we talk about this. We have representatives from LEI and DR Horton.
Yes.
Yes.
Curtis is here, and then Rob Orlocker's here as well.
Yep.
So Curtis Levitt, Rob Horlocker, and Nate, I apologize. I don't remember your last name. Nate Walter.
Nate Walter, thanks.
All right. So we've seen this project. So this is a project we've seen historically or in the past a couple different times. They've sent some comments back and addressed comments that have gone through this. And so we're all fairly familiar with it. So I keep getting a little bit of feedback. Apologize about that. And we'll kind of, as I said, we'll go around the table. We'll start with fire. There's one major item I think before we get with it's kind of in coordination with fire and public works. It's the location of fire hydrants within along the private streets and the homes that are along the private road along, was that Oakdale, if I remember correctly. One thing, as we were reviewing the plans, I'll scroll to those utility plans real quick there to show there's some fire hydrants that the fire line extends between building locations. And a concern with that is when it comes to maintaining those fire lines in the future as the city takes ownership of those. So we've had discussions with fire and with public works. Departments kind of got together to discuss this. And our recommendation would be to relocate those proposed fire hydrants closer to the public roads, and that's only specifically the ones located between buildings, and then finding locations that are appropriate along the access roads back to there. So potential locations would be on Bracken 5, locations closer to the end of the building, Summit Ridge Parkway, as well as if we go north, locations on this access, and then locating fire hydrants out along the frontage road. That's kind of some of the discussions. I've got Taylor Sutherland here with the fire departments. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, just the biggest thing is bringing those along. I don't remember what that
Harvest View.
Harvest View. Having that be preferably the address side of the building, which would put that as our response side. So if those lines are brought out to that hydrants there, and then along the private roads, like you said, more at the access points. That is the fire department, public works, those locations.
And what that does, to my understanding, is it allows, with fire hydrants located at the access points and along the private roads there, or the public streets, I apologize, it allows for multiple points, say, for lack of better terms that I know of, angles of attack, for if they need to, they can access from here, but then they'd also be able to access two sides of the buildings versus just one.
Zoom's picking up everything. Okay. Zoom is the transmitter.
Wade, did you have anything else you'd like to add
Just
to that?
We put that deal in with the landscaping, keep it minimal over those that have to go through any easements. On
So-
those fire hydrant ones.
So to build on that comment from Wade, I don't know if you guys heard it, Nate and Curtis, that with those fire lines located across private property, that we work with you guys to get the appropriate easements in place and work with landscaping so there's not major trees or anything like that located across those easements.
We can take care of that through easements on the plat and then make sure that those get incorporated with the landscape plans at final plat.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any comments or questions regarding that?
No, I think we can make those adjustments.
Okay, Curtis and Rob?
That should be fine.
It's easy.
Okay, sounds good. Taylor, did you have any other questions?
Nope.
Comments? Okay. We'll move to
Hey,
police.
hey, John, I have a comment on that.
Okay.
So I apologize, we were coming into this late and I wasn't able to get things set up, but did you cover the snow removal of the dead end roads? And having that in the CCNRs like we've done on other developments?
Yeah, Wade was going to cover that when we got back to him on that.
Okay, all right. I just didn't want to move on to the next item. Thank you.
Yep. So, Rod, did you have any?
No comments.
Okay, no comments from police. Thank you. Okay, Wade?
So on the city public streets, there's 3 dead ends. We need to have some kind of an agreement on the snow removal, that becomes the responsibility of the HOA. It's hard for us to get our trucks in there, nowhere to put the snow. We don't have a policy of trying not to back up those trucks. So we go through them, other than it comes into the commercial area.
So one thing we've done in the past, and Nate's familiar with this, we've got development up on the north side of town in the orchards that part of the HOA CCNRs that were associated with that development is that there was an agreement essentially that the Santa Cruz City wouldn't plow those stub streets until the time that those private or those public roads continue and become through loops. So for the time being, until neighboring properties develop, it would be the responsibility of the HOA to push those portions of it until such time as they develop through.
Sounds good.
Does you guys have any questions on that or comments?
We can, that's not a problem. We can accommodate that in the CCNRs until those roads go through.
Okay. All right. Wade, did you have anything else?
That's all I had.
Okay. Moving on to Ben, did you have any?
Hey, Norm, can you talk for a minute?
Sure, go ahead.
We're just trying to get speakers set up so that everybody in the room can hear, because the laptop speaker is just not very loud.
Okay.
So just keep saying
Test.
check in two or whatever.
Test, 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 test. Test, test, test,
Okay, hold on a second.
test, test, test,
Oh, please.
test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
Manage output devices.
Test, 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 test. But is it coming through in there? He's trying to get those other speakers set up, right? Test, test, test,
It's on.
test, test, test. Are we good?
No, we're just trying to work through this. Where's the speaker on this computer?
Test, test, test.
It should be coming out of your speakers.
Headphones. Let's go back here.
Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test.
Is there a setting on Zoom?
Hello, test, test, test.
Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Sorry, guys. It's just hard to hear you.
Okay. Kira's just across the room and she's taking minutes, so she needs to hear what's being said, but
I believe there will be a recording. I can go back to
yeah. Sorry for these difficulties. This is going to be a transition as we get this all set up.
Okay. Yep. Jason with planning and zoning?
Yeah, so the only comment that we had, Nate, was, I know we've talked about names of streets a while, but at the very north end of the subdivision, you have two streets called Hidden Springs Drive. I think probably for public works and public safety, that's just going to be confusing if we had Hidden Springs Drive separated by some units. Probably be better to name one of those streets something different, just so that it's not going to have that big break in it and cause confusion.
Okay, that's not a problem. We can work with the Art on getting a new name.
Okay. And there's some other there's some labeling comments on here, just some other cleanup items that that we had regards some storm drainage comments, as well as say labeling issues, all meters, just some clarification. So some of the utility services look like the meters located adjacent to the building. Those just need to be located within the city right of way. Just a couple notes on those as we roll, just a couple of those cleanup items on there. So,
Okay.
Is there any other comments to say? Oh, so Nate, on this with for the proposed storm drainage that covers Summit Ridge Parkway and that proposed retention pond, that we'll have to ensure that that's within an easement and protected for city access to that as we go in the future, so that when the south side of Summit Ridge Parkway develops, that pond is retained, or the location of it and the appropriate storage is maintained as we go throughout as the area develops into the future.
Okay, sounds good.
Couple other things. There's some valving, some comments on valving here to get location, basically be able to split some of those water mains up as they go between intersections. A large part of that is due to the number of units that are between blocks. So we need to make sure that if there's a water line break, or if we have to do, I should probably rephrase that, to when there are water line breaks in the future, that we're not shutting off, we're limiting the impact of that as much as we can. So we'll look at looking at getting some, especially located here with valves. There's a lot of breaks in valves as we go through. There may need to be maybe one additional valve placed between these intersections, the intersections of Summit Ridge Parkway as we go north up to, I believe, I can't remember the name of that street, between Hidden Springs and Brookside Drive. So some
Okay.
net there. So those are some of the main questions. I'll make the note as well that I'm aware that you know the Postal Service has been involved in this, is working with you guys to try to get appropriate locations and appropriate number of mailbox units. And we just need to have you coordinate with them and make sure that we'll get written notification from them that everything's good on those. So just as we continue to roll forward, that'll be included as one of the things we look for from you, from them, indicating that they're okay with the proposed number of units and locations.
Okay.
So that's most of the engineering and planning and zoning comments and red lines. And Ben, did you have anything else?
It didn't. This just needs to be passed subject to being able to meet the development agreement. There was an amendment to the development agreement that is currently being contemplated by the developer and the city. And right now it's not compliant with that, but it would be my proposal, and maybe I could just make this a motion to
I have a hard time hearing him.
motion to recommend.
That's parliamentary.
Okay. Motion to recommend approval of the towns at Summit Ridge, pending that it meets the compliance of the Summit Ridge Development Agreement, and pending all the comments from this meeting, as well as the red line comments provided by engineering.
Okay, so I have a motion, and again, just to repeat that motion, forward a recommendation for approval to with the conditions that the development agreements conditions are met, that any comments are made in this meeting will be met, as well as engineering and other red lines that are on the plans. Is that correct? Okay. Do I have a second? Second from Wade. All in favor? Is there any comments or discussion on the motion? Okay. With that, I'll look for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So Nate and Curtis, we will update some of these red line comments for you and get those sent over to you, and say then we can start working with you to get moved up to Planning Commission at the appropriate time. So.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for making this happen today. I realize it was a challenge to get everyone on, and thank you for taking the initiative to make sure it happened today.
Okay. Appreciate that, Curtis. Thank you. Okay.
Have a good
And then we'll work on moving on to the next development, the next item on the agenda. And so we'll work with, again, Nate with LEI will be doing this one, as well as anyone from Blue Ox, Aaron, and John Caldwell.
We're on there, but let's see if we can get it back on. Okay, that's that. There they are.
Sweet. Okay. So I'm going to,
You don't need to do that.
Yep.
That's it.
so,
We have John Caldwell,
John
with Sierra
Caldwell.
Homes, Aaron Jensen with
Yep.
Blue Ox
So,
Development.
yep, we'll have, say, John Caldwell with Sierra Homes. We'll have Aaron Jensen with Blue Ox, and Nate Walters with LEI. I have everyone here.
Yep.
Okay. Who could you say who that yep was?
LEI Nate is here.
Okay, we have Nate. John Caldwell, if you want to unmute yours.
John Caldwell.
Okay, thank you. Got John. It doesn't show up very well. And Aaron, do I have you?
You should.
Okay, yep, I've got him. So, okay. So this, I'm going to shrink that a little bit so I can. All right. So there's the next two phases within Apple Hollow, which is Apple Hollow A13 and A14 are the next two items on the agenda. They are separate applications, but they do tie together in when it comes to access and such associated with those. And so to get some background, these are the final last two phases for the townhomes within the orchards on the east side of Center Street. So there's a total of, was it 58, if I remember correctly, units within this area. So A13 will be the finished construction of 20 East as it extends to the north up to what's being constructed currently in A12, which is 1040 North, just south of Ginger Gold Road. Thank you. So there's 34 units within there. And then A12, A14, apologize, has the next 24 units in there. So again, this is a final application. So this will be, DRC would be approved body for these two developments. So I'll start with Taylor Sutherland with fire and see if he has any comments.
I don't have anything.
Okay, no comments from Taylor. We'll move to police with Chief first. Do you have any comments?
I don't have anything.
Okay, no comment with police. Wade Eva with Public Works.
Just
So this development does fall under the old standard. So they're all single meters within, very similar to what's done on the west side and what's been done continuing on the east side. So.
So just as a note, and John's aware of this, he came to the ARC and got conditional approval. This is only applicable to the rear loading units, right, John?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so there's some front loading units there that are.
Looking at those when the building permit's submitted, and I think all the ones in these two plots are rear loading, so they would be consistent with that. So just know that there's conditions of approval with the ARC, and I think it's appropriate with DRC final approval that they meet those conditions for architectural review.
Just a couple of notes for you. Apologize. Is improvements within Apple Hollow, as Apple Hollow A12 is currently under construction. However, just as a note for you guys to be aware of is that no building permits or anything can be issued for units within A13. It'll be a similar comment with A14, can be built or issued until this A12 has been improved and those have been accepted. Just to say, as everything starts to tie together up there, just so you're aware that that'll be the case with these townhomes rolling forward.
Okay, we can add that note to the cover.
Okay. Then just a couple of comments on the plat. Just a couple cleanup. One thing that was missing on the plat is a line table. There's a curve table, but there's not a line table to tie those buildings together as we went through that review. A couple of notes on labeling the road as we start to roll from the modified road cross section along 20 East as it expands up to the full 55-foot right of way.
Okay.
Yeah, and just adding some labels. Don't need the planning commission approval signature line. So, Jason, you have some comments?
Yeah. So John, I am noticing there that zoom in a little bit. It looks like 129 through 134 are front loading units. That didn't go through ARC, so we just be looking for architectural, plans or the building permit the building plans to be consistent with what's been done in the past. So I thought these were all front loading, but it does look like there's a handful of the, or sorry, I thought these were all rear loading, but it does look like there's a handful of front loading as well.
Yeah.
Just another note that needs to be added, that all the service laterals, as they say, this will impact G3, or G3 as it extends along 20 East to the north, and then roadway here, is that all the services need to be stubbed to or provided to the townhomes between Center Street and 20 East. That those will need to be done prior to paving along those lines. Similar note that we had with G3 when that came through a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And then to be removed as well as the existing pond or the pond that's associated with G3
Okay.
on there for clarification. Again, each phase needs to be kind of standalone. And so right now there's no outlet for the storm drain as it extends to the east on 960, I believe that road is. The rest, that's the main comments that we had from engineering on. There's a couple landscaping comments that need to be addressed across there. So.
John,
Nate or somebody at LEI, you've got to mute your mic, please.
Well, sorry, the map you had up tricked me.
Sorry, Norm, what was that?
So somebody at LEI has got some background noise there. If they could mute while they're not talking, that would be beneficial. We're getting some background noise from them. According to the Zoom, they're the ones that are lighting up when the noise is coming through. So please mute if you can.
Sounds good. We'll mute it when we're not talking.
Thank you. Is there any other comments, questions that LEI and Aaron and John had regarding these as we went through them?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. That being said, again, this is, well, let's look at, say we could do kind of roll through, that'd be separate motions. So I guess we can if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion on Apple Hollow 813.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Orchards Plat A13 with the condition that the engineering and planning comments be addressed, that conditions of approval for architectural review approval be addressed.
And what about the units, the rear loading?
Oh, no, I'll scratch that comment. I was wrong
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So that's it, my motion.
Okay. I have a motion, and that motion again is to grant approval, considering that engineering and planning zoning comments are addressed, as well as architectural review committee comments are addressed with the building permit.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? None. I'll look for all those in favor. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Moving on, still the same group for Apple Hall A14. Again, very similar comments. A14, again, it cannot be, building permits can't be issued until all the improvements along 20 East are in. Just as a note there as we start to roll forward. Very similar as previous.
Even though it connects on the other side.
So yeah, you've got this connection here along 120 East. But with the plat itself, there's Apple Hall A13 will need to be done so you have that second point of access out of there, and as well as water line looping for those homes and everything located along, verify I'm saying that, 950 North. So
yeah. Okay, so that road's going to need to be in for the other side of the road as well, the single family lots.
correct. So this 20 East needs to be done, and 120 East needs to be done, which is already is, for the A14. So basically, that's kind of the main comment there. We'll go around the room with this one, starting with Taylor with fire.
I don't have anything.
Okay, no comments from fire. No comments from police. No comments from public works.
So we've got a red line on there, so you'll see this, but the path that's on the fronts of these units, which is going to be the north side, these again are rear loading units as well. That path, go back to the last map, John.
Yep.
That path you can see is just outside of A14's plat line. It's shown to be more in the phase that has the apartment buildings. We need that plat line to incorporate that path so that people have access to the front of their units. I think the apartment buildings will be able to get away with not having that path. So therefore, we need to have that path happen with this phase so that there's appropriate pedestrian access for people to the fronts of their units.
Hey, Jason, on that, can we, rather than going back and updating all the plats for all the apartment buildings and everything up to this point, would it be all right if we draft an easement for the construction of that pathway in the interim until those future phases are platted?
Easement in favor of the property, the homeowners association associated with that sidewalk.
All in the same homeowners association.
So let's see, I'm trying to think through that. So you're basically saying that you want to have that area for staging and whatnot for the apartments down the road?
No,
I think
the lot lines are drawn like that per your request to the city. We discussed this on the other side of the apartments. So for us, we were okay with anything, including a right of way, but the city wanted that sidewalk in the apartments for maintenance purposes or something, if I remember, a year back.
So Aaron, we're a little bit off on this one compared to the last one, because when we did the last one, it appeared that the apartments were going to go first, but now the townhomes are going first. So we've just got to be able to have that connectivity. I would say propose what you're going to propose, Nate, as far as an easement, and let us look at it and see what we can do there. But that's the problem, is that we're kind of flipped from where we were at before, Aaron, where we're now putting townhomes in, where on the other side of things, it looked like the apartments were going first. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing here, as far as which one's going to go in first, who needs it, who needs access to it, et cetera, et cetera. So I would just say propose what you're going to propose and we'll look at it.
Could there just be a note saying that sidewalk has to be in before COs or something like that, or is that not doable?
Yeah, that's mostly what we're going for, is we just want to have good access for the residents that are going to live there. And like Norm mentioned, we might have been a little bit sideways the last time we did this because of just the order that these plats are coming in. But hindsight's 20/20, and I think the apartment buildings will be able to do without that path. But the fronts of those units and people getting to the front door of the townhomes is probably going to be more necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those were, one other comment. You've got the roadway there. We need the appropriate cross-section listed and shown on the plans, the roadway cross-section there, because right now we have the 40-foot cross-section associated with the townhomes along 20 East and along 1050 North. So we need the 950 cross-section there. Landscaping comments. So,
We'll get some feedback. Couldn't hear you. What did you say?
You're not coming through, John. You're all garbled. Nope, still bad. I don't know what's happening, but the sound is coming through garbled. We can't understand what you're saying.
Let's see. Sure, if I change it. site on the site looks like. Sun coming out there.
Maybe try a mute and then unmute again, see if we can make it work that way.
Still coming in with feedback.
It's just coming in really garbled. I'm not sure it's feedback, but it's coming through really broken up and not very understandable. I can understand you a little better this time, but before it was just noise.
Okay.
There you go. Now you got it. Yep.
Okay. I think we're getting feedback from the mic as well as the mic on the computer. Would be my only guess. So, okay. So again, apologize about that. The question I asked was whether or not LEI or if Nate, John, or Aaron had any questions or comments that we can talk through with them.
Nothing from LEI.
Okay.
Nothing from me.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. With that, I would, again, this is a final application. And so with that, I'd look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Orchards Plat A14 final plat with the conditions that red lines be addressed, that architectural conditions of approval be met at building permit, and that we work with the applicants on the construction of that sidewalk that's in front of the units, and that be done before any C of Os are issued.
Okay. So the motion is to grant final approval with the condition that all comments, all comments are addressed. The architectural comments are addressed from the Architectural Review Committee, and that the sidewalk appropriate access is provided via easement or other means for the townhomes. And that be done before certificate of occupancies are granted. With that, I'll look for a second.
Second.
Motion second by Ben Reeves. Any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. So Nate, yeah, we'll work on getting these comments sent out to you, and we'll work on the next portions of getting this up and running. So okay,
Good.
Thank you very much, Nate. Thank you very much, Aaron, and thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having this.
Okay.
Thanks.
Since we've got, it appears that we have a representative from the Hills Plat B with Sean Herring, appears to be waiting for us to get on. With that, if there's no concerns, we'll kind of redo the order of the agenda and move the Hills Plat B final review ahead of the Great Cliffs. Is there any concerns with that? Okay. So,
Hey, John, is there G2 and G3 on the agenda as well?
say again.
Of Orchard? Is Orchard's G2 and G3 on the agenda?
So Orchards G3 was on the agenda the previous DRC, and it was granted final approval with condition back then. So G2 has not been reviewed.
Okay. Okay, good to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Do you adjust?
All right, for the Hills, do we have everyone that a representative from there? I see we've got Sean Herring with Region Engineering.
Hi, John. This is Sean.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Is there anyone else that is looking to join us from Salisbury?
No, nope.
Nope. Okay.
Who's Dan Beckman?
Okay. Since we have everyone here for the Hills Plat B, we'll go over to that one. So we've reviewed the Hills Plat B previously to kind of give you an idea of the location of it, where they're currently constructing Phase A up here off on the south side of Summit Ridge Parkway. There's the access road that's just the southernmost, south and easternmost access off of Summit Ridge Parkway It's the next phase that heads east and then over to the railroad tracks. That's phase B in its entirety. They're proposing, because of construction timeframes and open space requirements, to do the platting of Plat B in 2 separate phases. So the first phase would be the first 13 lots. Let me just go to that sheet real quick for you. It kind of illustrates that. So you notice there's the first 13 lots that go through that development. That is in accordance with our code that limits the amount of single family or amount of dwellings, homes, and sorry, thank you. I apologize. I got to get that straight in my head. It's with the distance requirements associated with a dead end line or a dead end water line, as well as traffic access to it. So the first phase of Plat B, they would construct the first 13 lots with there, and then the second plat would be the remaining 8 lots associated with it. It was in discussions with the contractor and with Mitchell X and Salisbury. They are intending to construct all of it at the same time, but only plat what they're able to build on, so that they can proceed with getting building permits associated with that. So that's the direction that they're wanting to go, and it appears that fits with our current city ordinance. So with that background, I'll open it up and again go around the room, starting with fire. Taylor. Okay. There's no comments from fire. Move to police.
I don't want
No comments from police. Move to public works. Wade.
I just have a question. If those set for any amount of time, we may need to put that dead end street clause in those, where snow removal will be an issue if those sit for 2 years without connecting.
So with that, there is an HOA associated with the Summit Ridge development. However, there's no there's no discussion in regards to the snow clearing on that I'm aware of. So because essentially, yeah, you would have two dead end roads for for an unknown amount of time during that. However, during the first platting that they'd have, apologize. The first platting of that, you'd have really you'd have a turnaround here, but there wouldn't be any homes fronting along that stub street to the south here.
The issue is right there on those front of those 2 homes.
These 2 homes here.
We have nowhere to put snow.
So, yeah, we don't have any specific easements. So we'll need some sort of easements tied to that snow loading. Yep, a snow loading easement or something at the end of those roads until such time as they go through. Would that be appropriate way, do you think? Or, okay. Add that note there. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Ben, did you have any?
I'll go first.
Go
So,
Jason. Okay.
yeah, this is a little bit different how we're doing phase B in 2 different parts. The first part here, there's going to be landscaping along the top of the retention basin, boulders and trees, and then there'll be cobble down in the bottom part of the retention basin. For the second part of B, which is the rest of the retention basin out towards the edge of the property, which is along the railroad tracks. We've talked about the fencing in the past, and right now it's proposed to be a 6-foot tall vinyl fence. That does meet the terms of the development agreement. However, just talking here, the stretch of fence that would be from Summit Ridge Parkway down to lot 71, that might be something we can work with you to not have happen. It's obviously it might be something that can help with safety, but at the same time, it's just going to be a barrier along the retention basin, and it might just be something that visually just sticks out and doesn't really serve a purpose. So that's something that we can look at with Salisbury and work through that. Fencing obviously has been a topic that's come up in the past, but that's one thing as we've talked further, we feel like could be a consideration.
There you go. So, okay. Anything from Ben?
I don't have anything additional to what Jason just talked about.
Okay. Just I'd say a couple red line comments. There's a lot of just say per previous discussions, all as I discussed earlier, that all the improvements are intended to be constructed, however, it just won't be recorded. Just a note along that same lines, kind of addressing that. Then there just appears to be kind of a closure gap on that, Sean. And then there on the B2, there's a question on the section tie. It seems to be a little bit off from from plat B1. So just something, please verify that. Those are the main comments that we have on there. So.
Ask
Yep.
one question. What
Okay.
was the purpose of fencing the retention basin?
So the retention basin itself is not going to be fenced. On the other two sides of it, it'll just be trees and boulders. I think the purpose of the fence was kind of a barrier between the railroad tracks and the development. But since there's no homes there, that's why we've looked at it and said, what's the purpose of the fence there? Is it just going to look weird?
It's not fenced all the way around.
No.
Okay.
So where there's fences are where it backs on single family homes. Is where the
Or
fences
where
are.
the single family homes eventually will back
Yep,
towards the
right
railroad
here.
tracks.
In my mind, it'll be a target for vandalism.
It'll just kind of stick out there by itself. It's not going to really serve a purpose. So that's why we talked about it, and it'll open it up as you come across the bridge rather than just being this barrier that's just there for no purpose.
So Jason, one thing on that I think we may need to consider is just having either a rebuild of the field fence that's there or something. The railroad, I assume, I haven't looked at it in the field, but I assume there is a fence there that's probably dilapidated at this point in time, but we will want to have something there. I'm just not sure that a 6 foot tall solid privacy fence is the right thing to do, but there will need to be some type of fencing there. So we'll work with you, Sean, and figure out what's best on that with the meeting a development agreement and what the needs are for the city and that kind of thing.
Correct. And that's all that I'm saying at this point is that's going to be in the second part of phase B. We'll work that out, but that's kind of a topic of discussion that we can work through with the developer.
I agree, Norm. I think a field fence replacement of the existing or new field fence is appropriate. Visual barrier, it's not prone to vandalism. It's less costly for all parties involved. It's a win-win for everybody.
Right. That's my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. With that, you said, again, this is a final application, so DRC is the final approving body on this. And with that, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Hills at Summit Ridge Plat B, Phase 1. That's maybe the best way to describe it. That would be the first 13 lots of Phase B, with the condition that the red lines are addressed and that the developer work with the city on the fencing along the east side of the retention basin.
Hey, Jason, before we go any further, I'm not sure you can make a motion like that. This is not split up into two portions. It's all one with two phases. And so I think we would have to approve conditionally with the acknowledgement that phase 2 cannot be constructed or cannot be receive building permits until such time as C or D and F are done. I'm not sure we can just say you can only approve the first half of the plat. That's not how this is on the agenda.
Okay, so the way Norm's described that, that'd be good. So for Kira's purpose, we'll approve the Hills at Summit Ridge Phase B or Plat B with the condition that only the first 13 lots can receive a building permit, and that the rest of the phase cannot receive a building permit until such time that the appropriate access and water looping connectivity is done.
I think that works.
Okay, I have a motion, again, to repeat the motion that, say that it's approve the final subdivision application with the condition that, that it be acknowledged that all of the engineering comments are addressed, correct? And then the first 13 lots contained within Plat B are the only lots that can receive building permits until such time as appropriate water line looping and traffic access is provided with future phases. Right.
And then the fencing is
And that the fencing be addressed along the east side of
retention.
the retention basin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second by Ben Reeves was the second on that. Any discussion on the motion? Not. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. So we'll work with you, Sean, on getting those comments out to you and work on that fence.
Great. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Gray Cliffs, and we weren't anticipating anyone associated with that development to be a part of this. This is the first submittal and preliminary, so there's a considerable amount of work that need to be done on it. There we go. But just some background information on this is that it's the proposed development up on the east bench from this old Sumption mining pit that's up there. They are proposing 500 units up in this development that they're looking for that. It starts off on, I believe this is Cherry Lane.
Yes.
As it's right here by C.S. Lewis Academy, directly across from there, drive access.
Each street and Cherry Lane.
Yep. And then it extends north across there. There's a couple major items of note that there is a fault line that runs through this area. It comes approximately right down through this green space and over here, and then it catches the roadway, the city right of way, in which they proposing put the road within that that fault line zone that's been determined per the geotech report, as well as a hazard report. So there are some major concerns that haven't been addressed in regards to that and protecting that infrastructure, because that is the backbone of the development and that's the way in and out. They do have two proposed accesses onto State Road 198. However, they say you got only the two, and then you have the third connection down here to the south. With that, so engineering has some major concerns with that and protecting any utilities that are within there, and also protecting the roadway, so that in the event of an earthquake, that there's still ability to get access up there across the board, all city services. So I say I'd anticipate this would be tabled at this meeting, but say
It will be tabled. Just as a clarification, I
Yep.
contacted Ken Berg, the engineer, and told him that there were significant red lines and that this was going to be tabled, but that we would just get the red lines and give them back to him so that we can keep making progress. The only purpose for bringing this up is just getting more additional comments so that we can give that feedback to the developers so they can continue to work on this preliminary plan. But this will be tabled. So, and that's why the engineer is not here, is because there's a significant amount of comments that we didn't feel it was necessary to take the time to go through every comment at this point.
Yep. So Taylor, do you have any specific comments you'd like to include?
I've just got a few things. I'd like to recommend that they change the name of Vista Range to something else, because we have a Vista Ridge in town. There could be some confusion there.
Yeah, there's another road called Bluff Street, which we already have a Bluff Street as well.
Okay.
So,
and then the couple cul-de-sacs They need to have the 96-foot diameter. They're close, but they're just off a little bit.
Okay. And if you want, you can provide an email to planning and zoning as well, or leave your notes here and we can get those included on our red line comments.
Yeah, I'll shoot you because I've got a few other things that
Okay.
I can just shoot you. Probably
Okay.
better than.
Yep, do that. Rod, did you have anything that jumped out at you with police?
Those are the only two access points. Well, I mean, I know we got Cherry down there, but
Yes.
does that meet our code?
So phasing wise, there's some issues with phasing as well. They're showing it really kind of does meet the letter of the law in regards to having 2 points of access, because we don't say how many units can be within 2 points of access. It just says 2 points of access above a certain distance. With that said, however, their phases are essentially, the first phase is this portion here. Their next phase would be up through, include this portion here. Then C would be down lower. D would be coming off through here. Essentially, this connection would be the very last. So their proposal per the phasing is to come all the way up and have all these homes come down through those 2 points, which again, we had concerns with as we were reviewing it, because that's a lot of units coming off 2 spots and really 1 intersection. So
Yeah, and I would argue that that intersection represents one point of access. You know what I mean?
Yep. So they do need to work on adjusting their phasing so that they have at least those 2 points. But
And I'm worried about just the overall traffic on those two access points once it's built out. That's a lot of traffic.
a lot of traffic coming out on 2 points. Okay.
Would you say 500 units?
500 units, 500 homes up there.
So basically, you're looking at Summit Ridge existing
Correct.
with those 2 points, well, 3, but in my mind, both access points, northern access points need to go in order to build east of that intersection.
So this would have to go in as well as this one if they want to continue constructing anything up through.
Yeah, if
to
they build the
up through
first,
here.
if they build the first entrance in Cherry, then they have 2 for what's been between.
Mhm.
But anything east of that intersection would have to have a second access point in order to go in.
And they know that the phasing on this will be a little bit unique in that they're gonna have to build a lot of road at some point, but they're just gonna have to meet the code. We don't have anything, like John says, it's gonna be a lot on 2 accesses, but that's all our code says is it's required to have 2 accesses at least.
So is that, I don't know what that road's called, the main one that lives.
That one there,
Is there any
proposed to be
Yeah.
called Gray Butte.
Gray Butte.
Gray View, and then what's the one that runs through all the town?
There you got Gray Cliff Drive.
So is that like a Summit Ridge Parkway type of arterial feed, or is that just?
I think it's a collector road. So Summit Ridge Park.
Summit Ridge Parkway is much wider street with
Right.
no houses fronting or loading on that. So if you have that amount of traffic from 500 units using that street through high density,
Yeah, we'd need to have an appropriate right of way width to handle that
yeah,
traffic.
without high density backing out into that street, 'cause the speeds will be increased just because of the amount of traffic. So I worry about vehicles backing out into that street or kids playing in the street. With that, that's a lot of traffic.
I agree. I think Bluff Street would need to be the same width as the Cliffs as far as a collector. And that Bluff Street should either have no access to it or, right turn in, right turn out only, but not cross traffic. You know what I mean?
Bluff Street. Is this one Bluff Street right here?
The Bluff Street is this.
This would be wider.
That's
because
Bluff Street right
You would
there.
envision that this is going to be a light someday, right?
Mhm.
Once once it's warranted in UDOT, would it say this,
Oh,
this would need
yeah.
to be supported for a light?
Both of them would be lights because that's all going to be for future commercial property.
It could be, but this one for sure right off the bat.
So would that be a major collector, Grayview?
We'd need to have probably a major collector cross section, 62 to a 72 approximately foot cross section. Probably need a
For that
increase
one,
that size.
and Great Clips, right?
Mhm.
Is that gonna require acceleration, deceleration lanes on UDOT?
UDOT will.
That's up to them.
Yep. So one of the comments that we have is that, you know, they're going to have to get UDOT approval before connecting onto State Road 198 there.
Hey, John, I think Rod's got a significant comment there that we need to address through engineering and have them provide a traffic circulation plan and specifically address literally hundreds of homes backing out onto a collector road.
Yep.
That's something that I'm seeing is a major concern with this particular development. Rod, does that capture your concern and comments?
Yes, yeah, for sure, Norm.
Just a lot of homes backing out onto a busy street.
We'll work on getting that comment on there as we send this off to them. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Rod. Wade?
Those cul-de-sacs are kind of giving me some concern. I don't know what the slopes on those streets going, if they're dropping down into there. The snow removal where the snow load increases, the higher we get on the hill. And then if we have to drop down at a 8% slope, you won't get a truck back out of there. That's one of my issues if we look at the
Grading along those
grading
cul-de-sacs.
on
And
those cul-de-sacs and the slopes of those streets into those cul-de-sacs. The other street's fine, you can always come around and go downhill and keep going. If you drop down in one of them, they have an 8% slope down into the cul-de-sac, you don't get out.
Yep. And along those lines, we'll also need some sort of easement or
To show the
for
contours.
and they do have a grading plan we can go over to kind of show those a little bit.
Just looks to
as
me
we go
like
through
they're
there.
gonna be dropping down into the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
Which create a nightmare with snow removal.
Yep. And there's also some stub streets down here on the end that
Yeah.
currently do meet our code. However, but there's that issue with snow loading on those.
Right.
So, yep. So we'll work on getting that, trying to figure out a solution to that one. So,
I do like the commercial roll rather than high density.
yes.
Yeah, they never had high density there. They had it as they had some open space down there, but yeah, I agree. I think the commercials would be a lot better along that main road rather than park space.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Wade. Ben, did you have anything?
Not that hasn't already been talked about.
Okay. Jason?
So we'll continue to
Yep.
have, we have a lot of red line comments. We don't need to talk too much about them in the meeting, but there's just a lot of things that we'll continue to work through with them.
Yep. The same comment with engineering on that. So,
Motion to table?
okay, got a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been seconded. I'll give that to Taylor. And with that, any discussion? Nope. Look for all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is tabled. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the February 25th and the March 10th DRC meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion to approve from Wade. Second?
Second.
Taylor, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. So those minutes are approved, and then
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. We're adjourned at 11:14 a.m. Okay, thanks everybody for the help and the technical wizardry.